You know, for as long as humans have fought, there's been this one ultimate military dream, right? The dream of becoming invisible. Imagine it, seeing everything without being seen, striking without any warning. Well, today, we're going to dive into the mind-blowing technology that's actually making this fantasy a reality on the battlefield.
And honestly, they do look like something straight out of sci-fi. We're talking about jets and warships that can just creep up on an enemy, totally undetected. They're basically ghosts. And in any fight, that's the ultimate advantage, isn't it? The power to take out a target before they even have a clue you're in the neighborhood.
Okay, so this right here, this is the secret sauce. The entire multi-billion-dollar game of stealth technology, it all comes down to making one single number as small as possible. The radar cross-section, or RCS. So what's the goal? Well, you're trying to make a massive fighter jet or a gigantic destroyer look like a tiny bird on an enemy's radar. Or, even better, make it disappear altogether.
But here's the thing. Is it really that simple? Just trick the radar? Not even close. See, achieving this dream, this true invisibility, well, that means you have to vanish from every single type of sensor the other guy might be using.
So this is basically the engineer's nightmare checklist. They have to fight a war on all fronts. First, can the enemy just, see you with their eyes? Second, what about the heat pouring off your engines? Can their infrared sensors pick that up? Then there's sound. Can they hear you coming? And finally, the big one we just talked about, radar. Can they get a lock? It's this constant four-way battle just to stay hidden.
So how did this all start? Where did this quest begin? Well, the very first attempts to crack this code in the sky were, well, they were pretty wild. And they took two totally different approaches to solve the exact same problem: how to survive.
Okay, so back in the 60s, you have the SR-71 Blackbird, and its philosophy was brutally simple. You can't shoot down what you can't even catch. Its main defense wasn't about being sneaky. It was just about being ridiculously, unbelievably fast. But then, fast forward to the 80s, and the whole game changes with the F-117 Nighthawk. This thing wasn't designed to outrun a missile. Nope, it was designed so the enemy would never even know to fire a missile. Of course, that shootdown over Kosovo in '99 was a huge wake-up call. It showed that even a ghost can get caught.
And this really lays out those two competing philosophies, right? On one hand, you've got the Blackbird, an incredible spy plane that was basically untouchable because it was just so fast. And on the other, you've got the Nighthawk. I mean, a total game changer, a technological miracle that changed the rules of war. But its obsession with stealth made it a real handful to fly. It was notoriously unstable.
So all these early lessons, the successes and the failures, they all led us to the absolute monsters of stealth we have today. We're talking about machines that have pushed these ideas of shape and secrecy and survival to the absolute bleeding edge, both in the sky and on the sea.
I mean, just look at the B-2 Spirit. Every single curve, every single inch of this thing is built for one purpose: to fool physics and to trick our senses. That weird flying wing shape, it's designed to just scatter radar signals away. Its engines are buried deep inside its body to mask their heat signature. And what you get is a bomber that can fly right into the most dangerous, most defended airspace in the world, and no one would ever know it was there. It's a true ghost.
Now let's take these ideas and apply them to the ocean, because it's the same logic. Meet the USS Zumwalt. This is a 15,000-ton beast of a warship, but look at its shape. All those sharp, weird, sloping angles. Well, because of that design, when it shows up on an enemy radar screen, it looks no bigger than a small fishing boat. It's incredible.
But, as you can probably guess, that kind of magic trick does not come cheap. We're talking about a staggering price tag. Each one of these destroyers costs about, wait for it, $4 billion. Just to give you some perspective, that's more than NASA's entire yearly budget for exploring other planets.
So what does all that cash get you? It buys you a revolutionary leap forward. Its radar signature is just 1/50th. Let that sink in. 1/50th of the destroyers that came before it. It makes this huge warship practically impossible to tell apart from civilian traffic on a radar screen.
And it's not just about being sneaky. This thing is a floating power station. It cranks out 78 megawatts of power. That's enough to run its engines, its super advanced sensors, and have plenty left over for the power-hungry weapons of the future. We're talking railguns, lasers, the whole shebang. It wasn't just built to be invisible now, it was built to dominate the future.
Okay, but this brings us to the real heart of the issue, the central conflict in the whole story of stealth. See, to get to this level of perfection, you have to make some unbelievable sacrifices. And we're not just talking about money, we're talking about capability.
Yeah, this quote just nails it. When you pour everything into making an aircraft a ghost, you almost always have to give something else up. Maybe it's speed, or how well it can turn, or how many bombs it can carry. It's a constant, tricky balancing act. And there's no better case study for this than the F-22 Raptor. This plane was, and a lot of people will still argue is, the single greatest fighter jet ever built, a true master of the sky. It perfectly combines stealth with unbelievable agility. The problem? It was a work of art that was just too expensive to hang on the wall. Even the Pentagon couldn't afford to keep buying them.
And this chart right here just shows you the brutal math. $190 million for a single plane. The cost was just unsustainable. And that's exactly why they shut the program down, and why the F-35, which comes in at a much more reasonable $90 million, became the new face of American air power.
So this whole cost versus capability thing, it's really created two different ways of thinking about air combat. You've got the American philosophy with the F-22 and F-35, which is stealth above all else. They carry all their weapons inside the plane and keep that radar signature as tiny as possible. Then you have the European approach, with jets like the Eurofighter Typhoon. They go for a more balanced design. They'll carry weapons on the outside, which, makes them easier to see on radar, but it also gives them more flexibility and lets them strike from further away.
So where does that leave us? This brings us to the final question. Where is this whole technological arms race going next? Because you have to remember, for every brilliant new way to hide, someone else is working on an even more brilliant way to find you.
The F-35 is really the modern answer to this whole puzzle. It's a compromise, for sure. It's cheaper than the F-22, and some pilots say it's not as nimble in a dogfight, but its combination of top-tier stealth and its unbelievable sensor systems make it a total game-changer. There's this great quote from a pilot who flew it in a training mission. The guys he was flying against, in older jets, just came back and said, we never saw you. The whole time, we never saw you.
But make no mistake, the US is not playing this game alone, not by a long shot. There was this story about Russia's new Su-57 stealth fighter just materializing totally unnoticed right next to a NATO transport plane. It's a pretty chilling reminder that this quest for invisibility is a global race now. And the stakes? They have never been higher.
And so that leaves us with this one final, really fascinating question. It's this endless game of cat and mouse, right? The hider gets better, so the seeker has to get better, and on it goes. As stealth technology gets more and more advanced, the technology to detect it gets more advanced too. So will we ever actually reach that dream of perfect, true invisibility? Or is the hunter always going to find a way to see the hunted? It's a race that maybe has no finish line.